I was panicking that first day. But then quickly that goes away because I'm like, I have skills. Having the skill set, you can then confidently bet on yourself that no matter what happens, you'll be able to pull through. All right, welcome to the Quest for Keys podcast, where we highlight key moments in entrepreneurs' lives that unlock doors on their path to success. I'm your host, Hoan, and joining me is the ever-inspiring Alvin Wee. What's up, man?
Woo! What's up? What's up?
Episode 2. Interestingly enough, this is episode 2/10 because we realized that episode 2 didn't record correctly, and so we're redoing it.
Yeah. Come on, man. I know you just want a little bit of you want more time for yourself. That's what it is. This is a blessing for you, and you just like talking about yourself. So, well, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
I secretly messed up the recording on purpose, so here we are. Here we are. So those listening, yeah, we are in episode 10/episode 2. We're redoing this one. This is where Alvin actually interviews me. But before we get into that, Alvin, what's new? What's new in your life?
Well, it is actually November. Election just finished. And not to get too political, but I am very excited about what's happening here in California right now. Prop 33 just got basically dismissed.
What does that mean for those who are not in
Prop 33
California?
is basically, it's a pretty big deal for California investors, especially someone like me who's creating housing to help with the housing crisis here. Prop 33 repeals what's called Costa-Hawkins Housing Act. And that basically is all about keeping the local municipalities and government to basically limit them from putting more rent control on any property on top of the California rent control rating, right? For example, like single family homes, new construction, anything built after 1995 is exempt from rent control for the next 15 years. So by repealing these, that means, like Los Angeles is going to be more stringent, or any kind of, or other counties or any other cities would be more stringent about putting more. They're going to basically put more restrictions and say, hey, everything's going to be rent controlled, and we can cap rents to basically. They can even say like, no rent raises for the next 5 years. They can do stuff like that, which is terrible. So, if this thing wasn't, set in place, or if it was set in place and it wasn't, if they were able to repeal this, that means like developers like me will just stop. Like they're not going to create any housing. And so the intention for that will be diminished. Essentially, it's going to have the opposite effect.
And that's the part that people really don't understand. They look at today and they go like, oh, you know what? We're gonna help the people by creating rent control so that you can afford where you're living. They don't realize that prices are controlled by how much supply there is, right? There's going to be the demand. The demand is what the demand is. But if the supply is restricted because you, the developer, who's actually the one creating the housing, says, you know what? What's the point? They're gonna cap me. They're gonna make it not so profitable. Then I'm just not gonna do it, right? And so there's less supply, more demand, or the same demand, but the demand supply ratio completely changes. The demand is going to seem way higher because the people who are in these properties aren't going to move out. They're like, my rent's capped. I'm good. I'm never leaving. So then you can't move in. So yeah, it's weird. Is it? Why do you think these politicians like do stuff like that? Are they just not thinking ahead? Or like,
I mean, these things are proposed by certain I don't know, certain groups that I don't even understand it. It's like some nursing group, and some health, it's like healthcare groups that are actually proposing this. I don't really understand the connection, but oddly enough, the ones who are opposing it is the Council for Affordable Housing. So they're completely opposing this, So I'm so baffled by it. But there's also Prop 34, which just passed, and that's great because that will actually keep anything that's rent control related in the ballot. Like basically, they can't propose anything that would have to do with rent control moving forward. So
All
yeah,
very
so
confusing.
that's great, man. That's great. And like I think I just someone just sent me an interesting sort of graphic of the changes from 2020 to 2024 that California is turning more Republican. It's basically almost 80% red.
Wow.
So very, very interesting change in, I guess, I don't know, political views.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's the homelessness and the crime and the people leaving the state and all that kind of stuff just, like, causing people to go, "You know what? Maybe something's not working. Hmm, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever."
Anyways, this is about you. Enough about me. So, Hone, hey, let's dig in, man. Let's go back a little bit. Maybe not all the way back, but let's start with what's the most pivotal moment in your life that changed the trajectory of where you are now?
Reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, of course. That book was, like, fundamental shift in, like my thinking. I knew while working at my 9 to 5 that I didn't wanna be there. I would look at my boss and my boss's boss and always ask myself, like, "Is this where I wanna be? Is that the life I wanna have?" Of looking at them, and I'm like, "No, absolutely not." So, being that my job is not gonna create a custom path just for me, that's where I'm gonna end up. And, in fact, my boss threatened me, and he said, "Hone, if you keep working really hard, one day you'll have this job." It's like, dude, I don't want that job, but that's all they have to offer. And that's the carrot they're dangling. It's like, if that's the carrot, man, sheesh, the stick must be terrible. So I knew like I didn't want to be there. So I needed a way out. And I was trying all kinds of businesses. Like I was like, oh yeah, let me like print shirts and all kinds of stuff. Right. And then reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was like, oh, real estate investing. And that was, like, the fundamental shift because in 2008, a friend of mine was like, "Yo, you should invest in real estate." I was like, "Nah, that's stupid. That's boring. That's corny. Who cares? Why would anybody wanna do that?" And then 2009 put it into perspective. So that perspective, that paradigm shift, if you will, that, like, led me here, and here we are, however many years later, and now I'm doing a podcast with you, interviewing other entrepreneurs, and most of them real estate investors. Crazy.
That's crazy, man. Like I said, I've had the same shift. It was from Rich Dad Poor Dad, but interestingly enough, for me, it wasn't something I picked up. It was just something that was given to me by somebody, and actually it took me a year before I actually read it. So I'm curious, like, who gave you that book? Where did
Yeah.
that book come from? Is something you picked up, or just like kind of random person? I don't know. You tell me.
Yes, exactly. There was a lot of motivation behind it, actually. I had met this girl, and just in small talk, it's like, "Oh, so
It's always about the girl, isn't it?
it's always all about the
Trying to
girl, right?"
impress her, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I'm like, like small talk, like, "How's the weather? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? What book are you reading?" Right? She's like, "Oh, I'm reading this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad." And then I was like, "Oh, I have that book," right? And then I go home and I look for the book and I'm like, "Oh, I don't have it." Right? So I wasn't lying, right? It's just because he has so many books. I had another one called like Before You Quit Your Job or something like that. That's another book from the Rich Dad series. And so I had that book at home because I wanted to quit my job. So this book was all about like before you quit your job, what do you do? So I was like, "Oh, this isn't Rich Dad Poor Dad." So I went out and I bought the book and then I
Mm,
started reading it. And then I was like, "Oh, this is good," right? And I just like I sped read the whole entire thing. I got it done before she did, and I was just like, "Wow, that changed everything." So yeah, that's why I got the book. That's why I actually read it. See how you didn't have the motivation. Yours sat on the shelf for a year. Mine was like, "Hey, here's a book. By let's have a good conversation." They always say like things are motivated by health, wealth, or love. Health, wealth, love, right? Like there's got to be like a thing. You didn't have either one of any one of those things. Mine was like pursuit of love, if you will, relationships, and that's what caused me to read the book.
wow. So, needless to say, should I be asking about the relationship?
We are married. We are now
Oh,
married.
look at that. Look at that. She married you because you read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
That's it,
That's
man.
the
That's it.
that's the best romantic story I've ever heard, man.
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So
All right, so what happened then? Like how did that whole thing change you though? Like
Well, then at that point, I was like, okay, I need to invest in real estate. Like the answer was obvious, invest in real estate. But the problem was a little bit more challenging. The problem is now how. It's like every solution creates a new problem, right? Every solution creates a new problem. So, like, if I told you, hey, you don't have any money to invest in real estate, then go raise it from private lenders, and you're like, oh, that's it. Problem. Where are the
So
private lenders?
am I assuming that dragon, we're gonna call this a dragon, but that dragon was the green dragon, meaning the money? Is that what that was?
Well, no, actually, Rich Dad Poor Dad tells you to invest in real estate, but it doesn't teach you how to invest in real estate. So as I'm like, okay, I'm sold. I'm sold. I want to invest in real estate. It's like me telling you, like, you should live on Mars. Mars is amazing. Mars has all your favorite foods, and you can eat whatever you want and stay healthy and whatever, right? I'm telling you like all these great things. Now you're like, but how do I get to Mars? So it's kind of like that. So how do I actually become a real estate investor? Right? That was my big like, uh-oh, now what? And I
So
spent
how?
right. So I spent 2 years trying to figure that out. I even went to like the Rich Dad Poor Dad seminars like that they had going on. I went to networking meetings. I did all these kind of things, and it wasn't until I paid for this class that was taught by a local investor, and he was teaching the Burr strategy for multifamily properties that are deemed commercial, meaning 5 units or up. So he had this whole course. He called it like intro or no advanced real estate investing 101 or something like that, right? And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, advanced fundamentals, I think something weird, right? And it was again all about doing the Burr strategy, but it didn't have a name then, right? But he was teaching how you can buy a property, force the appreciation through renovations and NOI increases, and then you can go refinance based on this new ARV that you just created, and you would refinance at 70%. And then as long as you bought right and renovated right, you can get all your money back out or more, and that means you have $0 into the deal, and now you have a property, you have $0 in it, and it's producing cash flow. And I was just like, what? That sounds like magic. And there it is, right? So he taught me that because they don't teach you that in Rich Dad Poor Dad, and they don't teach you that in the real world. So he taught me that, and then he also presented a deal to me, and he was like, hey, I got this property, this 6 unit apartment building. Do you want to buy it? And I was like, 6 units? Hold on. I've never even bought the one investment property. And now you want to sell me a 6 unit? And I said no. And I said no for one reason and one reason alone. I was a punk. I was a scared little punk. That's why. It had nothing to do with fundamentals. It had nothing to do with the numbers. It had nothing to do with whether it was a good deal or a bad deal. It was just because I was a punk.
So let's dive into that. What exactly? I mean, we all know you're not a punk. You were just scared. You were a scared little boy.
Scared
That's
punk,
what it
yes.
was. So why were you scared? Like, and what changed after that?
Okay, so in my brain, there was this assumption, if you will, of like, you're supposed to start here. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to, start smaller, whatever, right? And so my brain never told itself the story that Hone, you can do anything that you want. You can pursue anything that you want. You can start here or there, and nobody makes these rules up. Only you do. So I never told myself that story, and I guess I really didn't tell myself any story. So when the deal got brought to me, my brain went to scramble mode, and it went to the
It
level
short
of
circuited.
it short circuited and went to like comfort, which is say no, because you say no, nothing changes. And I have this, I'm good, right? So no, without thinking it through, right? I didn't think it through. I just said no, just because. No rhyme or reason. And that was it. And I think most people do that. Anytime somebody says something that's like new and foreign, it just short circuits, even though it will serve them greatly, even though like it would change their life, they still say no. So that's where I was, right? Now, lucky for me, I think this person had short term memory because they later said, yo, do you want to buy this property? And I was just like, uh, hold on, let me think about it. And I was like, okay. let me run the numbers, right? So I actually ran the numbers now. So whereas before I didn't run the numbers, I just said no. This time I was like, hold on, let me run the numbers. So I ran the numbers and I tried to kill the deal. I tried to give myself a logical reason for why uh, I should say no or maybe say yes. So in trying to kill the deal, what they call it stress testing. Stress testing is where you'll raise the or lower the ARV, right? So you think it's worth this, let's make it worth this, right? Let's make it worth less money. So let's see if the deal breaks. No, okay, let's change the rehab. So you think the rehab's going to be, I don't know, 200,000? Let's make it 210, 220, 230, 240, 250. Let's raise that. You think rents are going to be $1,000? Well, let's make them 900. Let's make them 800. Let's make them 700, right? And you got to see where the deal no longer works. So I stress tested it so many different ways, and I was just like, wow, this is actually a great deal all the way around. I can't really kill it. So if I say no, it's simply because I'm being irrational, illogical, and a little punk. So I was like, okay, I'm in. Yes. So I went back to him. I said, yes, I'm in. I want it. I want to do it. How do I do it? And then he got me a hard money loan. And what's crazy is this was back in 2011. Hard money loans at the time, I paid 6 points and 16% interest on that hard money loan. So 6.16% interest. But even with those numbers, the deal still worked out. So here we are, right? So I bought my very first deal using hard money and renovated it. And then he took me to a credit union. We did the refinance, got all the money back out, paid off the hard money lender, and then rented the property out. And I was just like, oh my God, this actually worked the way he taught it in class. Like this was real. And so there we go. From that point on, I was just like, okay, I'm sold. That was the easiest, however much money I made in terms of equity. It's the game plan worked. Versus like, okay, I want to sell t-shirts. Okay, how do I create a t-shirt design that somebody actually likes? And then how do I get it manufactured? And how do I get it delivered? And and it sucked. Right. I remember going to the UPS store with a box and I was like, okay, I want to ship this shirt to so and so. And it was just like a pain in the butt. I probably sold like 3 shirts.
So you had a win. It gave you the confidence. Did you do it again right away, or what was the play after that?
Yeah, actually. So it was kind of like, so this is what I did. Um, After that happened, I sent an email to like a whole bunch of people. I was just email, Facebook message, whatever. I was just like, "Hey, yo, you guys need to take this class with me, right?" And so let's say 20 people agreed. They took the class, right? And I was like, "Dude, I took this class, and this is what I did, and this is right." And they're like, "Okay, cool, I'm in." So they took the class, and then of the 20 or 30 people, I don't remember at this point, I emailed everybody, and I said, "Okay, who would like to take a step forward, right? Who wants to do something together?" So then out of all the people, 4 other people responded and they were like, I'm in. Oh no, 3 other people. 3 other people responded, I'm in. So me and the 3 other people became partners and we were like, okay, we're gonna go buy real estate. And so we would meet every single week as like a team meeting, and we were like, okay, let's analyze deals and all. And then this guy, one of the members, was like, "Hey, I found this deal. This guy's selling it." So at the time, we didn't know what a wholesaler was, and and this guy was a wholesaler. So he's like, "Yeah, I got this deal." I'm like, "All right, cool. We're interested." The whole time we're dealing with the wholesaler, thinking he's the owner, and then when we get to the closing table, it's like, "Oh, here's this woman." And she's signing all the papers. And wait, who's this woman? And whatever. And it's like very confusing to all of us, but it didn't really matter
So,
because we bought the property.
so let's not confuse the audience either. So, can you explain what a wholesaler is?
It's a person who finds an actual owner who's looking to sell the property. They negotiate with the owner and say, "Yo, I'll buy your property for X dollars, like 100,000, right?" And then they turn around and they go find somebody who's willing to pay more. So this guy got this property under contract for, let's say, $100,000, and then he turned around and he's like, "Hey guys, I got this property for sale, $120,000. Do you want to buy it?" And then we do our analysis and we're like, "Yeah, the $120,000 works." And so he gets to make $20,000 at closing when we buy it because that owner is going to get 100 from us, and he, the wholesaler, is going to get 20,000 as well, right? So the wholesaler gets 20, the owner gets the 100, and that's all the owner ever wanted. So we were buying from the wholesaler, and this whole time we're having the conversation with the wholesaler, and then day of closing, we're meeting up with this owner for the first time ever, and then we close, and all was good.
Yeah.
So we
So
bought that.
to clarify, the difference between a wholesaler and someone who is an agent making a profit through commission is that a wholesaler actually has the ability to, or actually had pre-negotiated contract. So that wholesaler is actually selling the contract instead of selling the actual house. So
Correct.
that's what the difference is. So he gave Hoan the right to buy the contract from him, from the wholesaler, and the wholesaler gets a fee for doing that, and that is called what again, Hone?
The wholesale
Yeah,
fee.
yeah.
But here's the thing: if you think about it, the wholesaler is just selling a piece of paper, right? He has the right. That wholesaler has the right to buy the property for 100 grand. It is literally an agreement of sale that says, "I wholesaler am going to buy your house for 100 grand." But on the contract, it says and or assigns, and it allows that person to assign it to me. And he's like, "Yo, if you want to own this piece of paper, it's 20 grand." And I'm like, "All right, cool. I give you 20 grand, but now I get the right to buy the house for 100." So he gets this wholesale fee of
It's
20
called
grand for.
an assignment fee, just to
Got it.
clarify. It's,
There it is. Right.
but yeah, I mean that's great.
I had a brain fart when you asked me. I was like, a wholesale fee? Yes,
Yeah,
the assignment fee.
yeah. But it's that's actually one of the easiest ways to get into real estate as well. Is just starting out as a wholesaler because it's you're not using your own money. You're actually you closing at closing on the first deal. So it's sometimes they call that like what's that called?
Double close wholesale.
Double close wholesale. Yeah. But yeah, man. So let's go back a little bit. Let's go before this whole thing. Before Rich Dad Poor Dad book was a thing for you. Before you met your girlfriend. Like, let's go back. Let's go back to like humble beginnings. What you said you had a W-2 job at the time, right? What
Yeah.
was that? What's your background?
Yeah, so I have my degree in mechanical engineering, and then I got a master's degree in financial engineering, and I got that while working at my job because I thought like, yo, this job sucks. There's got to be something better. And how do you get better? I don't know. You go back to school. That's what everybody says, right? So I went back to school, got my master's degree, and I was just like, all right, got the degree, but this isn't better. This isn't better. So what's going on here? But I got my like I said, I got my mechanical engineering degree. And it's funny because I got my engineering degree because I liked how things worked, right? And one of the ideas that I had was to become a toy maker and then to find out you made toys. And I was just like, oh my God, this guy lived my dream job, right? And then but I never became a toy maker. I became an engineer for a utility company. And I mean, talk about boring, a utility company that's owned by the city. So it's like a government job and a utility job smushed together and kills your soul. That's it. That's what it is, right? And so you get paid, like you get government pay, which is not a lot, right? You get city worker pay, which is not a lot, and then you get this engineering job that just has nothing to do with anything that you like, unless for some reason you like utilities, utility distribution. And so
Wait, are you
that
telling me? Are you telling me you weren't willing to settle?
well, I guess I did for a bit, right? I worked there for 5.5 years. But here's what's funny. At some point, I just checked out. At some point, I just checked out. I stopped doing my work. And my boss, trying to be a good boss, he would look at my pile of work and be like, yo, your pile of work keeps growing. Like, what's going on? Is everything okay? Like, how can we help? And I was like, oh, dude, it's just so much work. And the reason it's so much work is because I was trying to figure out how to become a real estate investor. So all day, I would just research how to become a real estate investor. I'd look at deals and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't doing any of the actual work at work. I was building myself up at work. So then I said, "Oh, it's so much work. Can we get an intern?" He was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we do this interview process. I'm interviewing all these people to become my intern. I get an intern. I teach him how to do my work. And here's what's crazy, right? Everybody thinks like, oh, these, you need a degree to do this and that and all that kind of stuff. I taught my intern in 2 days how to do my job, and he did it, and he did all of it every single day for however many months he was there, and he did a great job. So in 2 days training, no need for a 4-year degree. In 2 days training, he was able to do my whole entire job. So he just banged out all of the work while I continued to work on real estate. And I looked like an all-star because the work was getting done and it was getting done really fast.
Boom. And look, that's one of those magical keys that you have been able to discover, which was the ability to basically delegate, man. That's a powerful tool to be able to buy your time back so you can focus on higher productive things. Maybe not necessarily for your work, but you were able to really start building your skill set, which one of the biggest things that I always advise a lot of my mentees is always find more time to devote to building your skill set, because your skill set will find your relationships, your skill set will find your resources, your skill sets will find you your future. So, man, look at that.
Yes,
What
yes.
happens next, Hone? What happens next?
So this is where, I forget exactly the timeline as things are happening, but I got the intern. I'm doing my real estate deal. So I'm actually doing the real estate deal. And then I even have that second one going with the partners that we bought the wholesale thing from, right? And we're doing all that. And eventually my intern's internship is over after a couple of months or whatever it was. I was like, oh man, I gotta go back to like actually maybe doing some work. And so then the work piles up again and all that kind of stuff, right? And then they could see that I didn't like being there, right? I guess like I can't fake it. You know how people like can brown nose and wear a mask and all that and like play the political game? I'm the worst at it. If I don't like you, I'm going to show it to you. Like I can't fake that I kind of like you or don't like I can't fake it. I just like I wear it on my face and it's just like whatever. I don't want to be here. And so eventually they let me go with unemployment, right? They let me go with unemployment. And here's the coolest part. I was collecting rents from the real estate deals, and then I was getting unemployment. And so together it replaced my salary. And I was just like, dude, this is what they're talking about. This is like when passive income can pay for your expenses, then you're free. And so I got to really experience that for that moment in time because unemployment lasts for like a year, year and a half. There's a cutoff at some point. But for that year, year and a half, man, I was free. I was free. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
So
But
what then? What were you panicking? Were you freaking out? Like, because you had a little bit of runway, right?
I absolutely was panicking on day one. On day one, I can still remember to this day. I leave the building. I'm standing outside, and I go, "Oh my god, what do I do?" It's like the dog chasing the car, but then the car gets the red light and the dog catches the car. The dog's like, "Okay, now what?" Like, you bite the car? Like they don't know what to do, right? It was all about the chase. So for me, it was all about chasing financial freedom. It was all about chasing my big escape one day. And then it was forced on me. Okay, Hoan, good luck. Push me out the door. And now I'm like, I have it. And I remember my head was spinning, like literally, like I was like dizzy. What's that thing? Vertigo? When people feel like they're like kind of dizzy? I felt that for the first time and the last time at that moment. It was like this vertigo, like I was like, whoa, this physically has an effect on me. And I was panicking that first day. But then quickly that goes away because I'm like, okay, well, I still got money coming in, and more importantly, I have skills. So that's the thing, right? Having the skill set is the most important part of gaining your financial freedom because you can then confidently bet on yourself that no matter what happens, you'll be able to pull through. That skill set was everything. So I'm actually very happy with how things worked out because who knows if they never pushed me out because I didn't want to be there, they never pushed me out, then who knows how long I would have stayed there and then stifled how many more skills I developed once I was on my own. Because you become a different person. You have to be. It's kind of like fight or flight, right? Like I have to fight. Like the boats were burned down. It's like I can't leave now. I could maybe get another job, but it was just like, all right, let me figure this one out. So yeah, started figuring it out, and it's pretty cool.
Did you then discover that that's sort of your framework, that you like having your back against the wall?
Yeah, I guess so because like the small ways of back against the wall is like when you're going through school and they give you like a month to do an essay and then you do the essay in the last 3 hours. It's like my back's against the wall because the essay's due in 3 hours. I got to bang it out. So it's like procrastination of sorts pulls out the best in you, or it just pulls out the animal in you that it's like, okay, this is what you can do. So yeah, it showed me a side of me that I probably would not have ever seen if not put in that situation, forced into that situation.
Yeah, which is interesting, man. I think here's the thing. I think we all have that. I think we all have that beast in us.
Yeah,
It's just we never allow it to come out, and
yeah,
which is actually kind of a disservice to ourselves because if you don't allow it to come out, you don't know what your strength is.
right.
There's always that element, and and that beast is actually what gives you the confidence to do anything you can and anything that you put your mind to. It's amazing. So yeah, I would encourage everybody that's listening to this, especially those who have a lot of fears, like let it out, let that monster out. You know,
Let
give
the
yourself an
dragon,
opportunity.
that dragon out.
Get it's the dragon slayer out. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's funny because there's a lot of people who give other people advice like, "Oh, don't do that. That's risky." And what about your 401k and your health insurance? And what if something happens? And it's like you're getting advice from people who are actually very scared. And these are people who haven't created their own life that they love, yet they're telling you how to live life. And they're telling you to play scared because they are scared. Because if they were in that position, they would be scared as well. So I think people do a lot of harm trying to give good advice. That saying of like the path to hell is paved with good intentions. It's like, yeah, no, sometimes people need to put themselves in these tough situations so that they can see what they're really made of. How do you know what your barriers or your the edge of your what's it the where your limits are if you never reach them, right? How do you know what your limit is if you never reach it? So a lot of
Right.
people are playing way too far inside of the line, and there's a lot of life, man. And look, you and I are examples of what happens when people trust and believe in themselves and invest in themselves and then go out and create value in the world. And then so we've been blessed beyond measure through our finances and our lifestyle because we decided to bet on ourselves. So not
I
enough
mean,
people
that's
do that.
that's that's an interesting way to say it. And the way I look at that is this, and I do this to my kids right now because I'm trying to teach my kids how to be more confident. And that's what it is. It's like I look for ways for them to invest in themselves, to challenge themselves, to create confidence for themselves. Because the more confident they get, little things give everybody little confidence. But the minute you actually put yourself against the wall, those intentional mini traumas that you kind of give yourself, that just that just 10x, that just kind of catapults you to a different level. And this is a really good conversation here because it's one of the most powerful things that a lot of people miss. A lot of people miss this because of the fear, the lack of confidence, and a lot of people usually don't leave their jobs because of the fear, right? But really, it's not the fear; it's the lack of confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, and they fear because they have a lack of confidence, and why they have a lack of confidence is because they have lack of experience and lack of story, right? Lack of mentors, lack of like there's a lot of things that they don't have to boost that confidence. Like I don't want people to just have like a false sense of confidence. I don't want people to just be like YOLO, like you only live once. Let me just go out there, balls to the wall, and let's see what happens. I'm not saying that. Actually, what I do say is there's 4 steps. Knowledge, confidence, action, results, right? These are the 4 steps that I follow. Knowledge, confidence, action, results. So in terms of knowledge, I like studying a lot. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of audiobooks. I do a lot of YouTube videos, and I have a lot of mentors and coaches and all of that, right? So I do a lot to build my knowledge. That knowledge is why I have confidence. I don't have blind confidence. I'm not just like, okay, I'm going to do stuff. So knowledge, then confidence. With that confidence, then I take action, and then the action creates the results. And what's cool is those results creates new knowledge for me. right? It creates new knowledge. It goes, oh, that does work. Or, oh my gosh, that's how that works. Oh, this is the person that I needed to know in order to do this thing. And so, like, I can build on that, right? And so, more results equals more knowledge, which equals more confidence, more action, right? And that's why I'm able to do that. So, for those listening interested in escaping their job, right? It's like, yeah, build up your knowledge, but to so that you get the confidence to actually take the action. It's not to be like stupid and just do things. It's like I don't want you to buy a real estate deal just because we bought real estate deals. I want you to know how to buy real estate deals. I want you to know how to identify what a good real estate deal does. It looks like. Remember when I was talking to you about the 6 unit and I said I stress tested and I tried to kill the deal? Like that was being knowledgeable. That wasn't just like, all right, I'm in. No, I was scared, but the way I overcame my scaredness, right, my fear was through having knowledge and by stress testing it and knowing that it actually is a good deal and here's why. A lot of people are like, "Oh, that's risky, don't do it." It's like, "Why?" It's like, "Oh, you can lose money." Okay. How? Okay. Well, and then people don't usually think that far ahead, and then they can make something up. Well, what if you can't rent the property? It's like, okay, what if I drop the rent? Do you think it'll rent then? Okay, yeah, at some point, if you drop it low enough, it'll rent. Okay, how low? How low to guarantee that I get a renter? If I thought I can rent it for 1,000, how low must I drop it to guarantee a renter? If I dropped it to $1, I am for sure guaranteed to get a renter. $2, $3, 100, 200, 300, right? At some point, there's a guarantee, at least close enough, that I'm going to get a renter. Now, the question is if I am at my minimum, does the deal still work? And if the answer is yes, then dude, run to the closing table. Like run because what loss do you have? So that's the knowledge part. You see, like it has a lot of like good stuff in there. It's rich. It's not just being irresponsible and just jumping into something.
That's very true. Don't be like me.
There's my engineering. That's my engineering side.
That is your engineering side. I mean, I tend to sometimes jump into stuff because for me, I look at it as like I do have a lot of confidence in myself to figure things out, but that's also because
After the
yeah,
experience that you have.
yeah, exactly. But a lot of times too, I'm confident enough that I can figure something out. Like there's definitely an opposite thought for me where it's like I built myself enough to be confident enough to know I can figure something out. My stress test sometimes isn't necessarily based on what's the standard because I know there's a solution. I just don't ever give up. I'm very persistent, you know. But I think that's also comes down to me having been able to build that confidence for myself. Because I've tried so many things, man. Like something comes up, I swing. Something comes up, I swing. After so many swings, you just learn how to hit that ball so much better.
Most people don't swing though. That's the problem. They never swing. And then they don't have that foundation that you have.
But that's exactly it. You and I have learned to swing. Little swings count because that little those all those little swings amount to confidence, and you don't know until you actually get to the plate and realizing, wow, like all those small swings, I didn't think there was anything to learn, but I actually learned something from all of those,
Right.
and all of
In
those put
hindsight.
together. Yeah,
Right.
in hindsight,
Only in hindsight. Yeah.
yeah, but still, I think people need to go to bat more, man. That's the point.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And take a small swing. Don't bet your house and your retirement account on this one big swing and like hope that it's gonna like work out for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Here,
exactly. Don't look for the home run right away.
yeah,
Just get to first base, but swing.
right, right. And so that's like so there's many approaches, right? You can swing for a small thing like me trying to create like a t-shirt company, right? That was a small swing. And then there was the like little swing of me even going to that class, that real estate class for the first time. Like that was a small swing. And then it just kind of built up and then my bigger swing, which was buying the 6 unit apartment building, like I was only confident enough to do that big swing because of all of the other little swings that I took earlier. So it does build up. It's just here's the problem: as people get older and older, and I think this is the case. It might not be for a lot of people, but for the vast majority of people, as they get older and they don't take swings, they get more ingrained in not taking swings. And I don't know, but see, you're way older than me, so you can probably speak better to
Dude,
that.
I'm swinging even harder
You
now. Like,
you are.
yeah,
Think about other people your age that have worked at their job for the last 20 to 30 years. Are they swinging harder or not at all because they have never swung? And you're just like, nope, this is my
that's
lane.
exactly. It's very telling. It's very telling, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So
You-
going back to you, what happens then? Where are you now, actually? Like, what? So what do you do now? Let's talk about now.
So interesting. I'm glad that we're doing this whole new like episode 10/2 where I get to tell where I am, what dragons I'm facing now. It's like I'm building this new company. Interesting. Surprise, surprise. I'm creating a new company and it is called Simple Ways to Wealth. Simple Ways to Wealth. And the underpinning is real estate investing, but I also talk about creating active income, right? So I create active income, and then with the active income, I can then funnel it into more passive income revenue streams, such as lending or rentals, right? So lending, rentals, or LP positions in syndications. Okay, so that's the passive. But before that, there's a bunch of active income strategies that you can create, and it's all about how do you create an audience that then you can work with and create active income from that audience and then funnel it down to passive. So that's the funnel. And simple is an acronym, right? Success, interest, message. I'm like, how do you spell simple? And then what are all and then P is paranoid, L is leverage, and then the E is ecosystem, right? So that's simple, right? It's a thing, but also it actually is the word simple. Simple ways to wealth. What are simple ways to create wealth for yourself? Because I find that too many people create things that are too complicated. And when it's too complicated, people either they don't want to pursue it because they don't actually listen at all or they don't know what they're doing. So create super simple ways to create wealth. And it's all about leveraging your zone of genius actually. So who are you and what are you great at? What do you like doing? And let's figure out how you can create wealth from who you are. And I like working. And so for a long time, I was trying to figure out who's this avatar. So it started off with the people who want to escape their 9 to 5 because I was like, let me create the avatar around me. So that was like the broad pool. Okay. Then we narrowed it to people who actually have swung the bat. So you know how you were talking about people who like swing the bat, even little swings like matter. Those are the people who I actually want to work with. It's not just the general public who have a 9 to 5. So there's the people who have a 9 to 5, those who want to escape their 9 to 5, and those who have actually taken a little bit of action towards escaping their 9 to 5. Right. So that smaller pool of people is my avatar. Those are the people I want to work with because that's who I was. I was taking all kinds of swings. This business, that business, this was better, right? And it's like nothing stuck. And it's because nobody taught me how to create this simple business. And so when I hired the mentor, that's how I got the framework to create the simple business. And now I'm just paying it forward. And now I'm creating the framework for other people who are in that small pool who have taken swings towards escaping their 9 to 5. So that pool, I can show them how to become real estate investors, how to create active income, how to create passive wealth. And then this way, one day they'll escape their 9 to 5 if they want to, right? If they still want to or not. Some people are like, oh, Hoan, I love my job. Okay, cool. Stay there the rest of your life. I don't care. There's a small pool of people who actually want to leave. That's my people. And I want to help them leave. And it's through these frameworks and through the weekly conversations that we have. So we have Zoom calls where we meet every single week and I help people figure out what it is that they need to do and what it is they need to think. I find that a lot of people need this like hand holding motivation kind of like it's going to be okay kind of speech, and I provide that as well. I actually like doing that, so I get to do this for people and I help them do deals for themselves and I help them do their next deal to create money, to create all of that confidence that we were talking about. Then eventually I create enough confidence in them they don't need me anymore. I'm not trying to create people who are dependent on me. I am trying to create these confident individuals from knowledge, confidence, action, results. I'm trying to give them all the knowledge they need, whether it is the actual how to structure a real estate deal or the knowledge they need that, hey, everything's going to be okay and that you got this, right? So I provide them that knowledge that gives them that confidence, and then they can go out and they can take the action. And when they go take the actions, they can come back to me and go, Hone, I did this and I did that, and this is what I have. Can you help me with it? Yes. And then we can go back to the knowledge, and then we keep working it through, and then they get the results. So, long story short, I'm creating a new company to help people who want to escape their 9 to 5 who've already been on that path.
That's incredible, man. That's that's one of the things that I want to do in the future as well. Man, that's incredible. You find time to do that, man. Like one of my biggest challenges right now is finding that time to do that. I get a lot of people reaching out to me on Instagram, social media, especially because I'm that's my next level of evolution here, just expanding my reach. But man, I can't even find the time. So I'm very envious in a sense that you found the time in having to uh, have that in front of you now to do that. That's an amazing thing to do. Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you for identifying that and acknowledging that, because that was actually very intentional. So part of this whole like simple ways to wealth, simple business model is not creating this monster machine that eats up all of your time. Because if you remember, when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, what sold me was the fact that I would create wealth and passive income and be free. I didn't want to create a machine that just replaced my 9 to 5. Like, it was super intentional that when I am creating my businesses, that I am not like the employee giving 9 to 5 in my own business. And it goes counterculture to entrepreneur, like the hustle entrepreneurs, right? It goes counterculture to that because it's like, Hone, go bigger, go more, higher, build, like all that stuff, right? It's like I will build, I will continue to create, but I'm going to do it on my own terms. Like this morning, I woke up at 3 a.m., right? My sleep was disrupted at 3 a.m. And then it was disrupted again at like 5 a.m. And I was just like a wreck because I'm not used to not getting sleep. So I was getting disrupted all around. But I was able to just sleep in because I didn't have anything on the calendar other than this to do. So I could just sleep in till whenever I need it to. And it's like, what a life. What a life that I can listen to my body and just give it what I want it and need it, because my schedule isn't like, oh, I have to fill up all the white space in my calendar. People who want to become a billionaire, fantastic. You go for it. You change the world. And then there's other people who just need a lifestyle business where they want to spend time with their families. And I'm in that camp. I just want to spend more time with my family, my friends, doing my hobbies, and then building a business that can help change people's lives, but in my own way. There are these coaches and whoever you hear on YouTube that are like, yo, uh, I can see your future if I look at your calendar and like, let me see and fill up all the white space. And I'm like, dude, that's not it. Like, you actually missed it. You missed the class on why you want to create passive income. It's so that you can go and snowboard around the world or whatever, right? What happens is I talk to somebody young. I'm like, yo, what do you want to do? And it's like, oh, I want to become rich. And I go, why? I want to snowboard around the world. I'm like, fantastic. Remember that, because what happens is once you start going down this rabbit hole of building businesses and creating more income and you keep making more and more money, your lifestyle creeps up as well, and it follows that. And then so you buy the bigger house and buy the bigger car, and then you have all of these like responsibilities and then you have to find yourself working more and more and more. Even if it's your own business, you're working more and more and more, and then people will interview you on a podcast 20 years later and go, hey, like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm making more money. Why? And then they forget. They forgot that they wanted to snowboard around the world. All they're doing it is to make more money, to make more money, to make more money, to make more money, because it's become their identity, right? It's just they lost themselves somewhere, and I didn't want to lose myself. So I am so hyper focused on when I'm creating these businesses. Does the business still serve me from that time perspective? Does the business still serve me from what I actually wanted? And when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, what's it, 15 years ago, it's like I can remember all I wanted was to be free and not in this cubicle. And now I have that. And I try not to forget it because you and I are surrounded by so many successful entrepreneurs who make a ton of money. And then you're like, wow, that sounds interesting. That's it. Right. And then you can be caught in the trap of just making more money and not having any time to spend it. And so again, I wanted to be very conscious of what my life would look like when I said yes to something. Because what you say yes to, you got to say no to other things. So again, my calendar is pretty open, and that was by design. So if you're listening and you're like, go bigger, go harder, make more, and hustle, and blah, 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 you might be cringing right now, but I'm not, and I'm pretty like low stress and like I got good sleep. I see my family. I like the amount of time I spend with my family is like insane. It's crazy. It's like we just do so much together, and it's like, or we spend so much time together that it's like, wow, how do you ever make any money? How do you ever get things done? It's like because I got systems in the background that do it, and again, all intentional.
So let's talk about that a little bit because it's amazing that you're able to buy all this time. But for those who are listening right now or stuck in their 9 to 5 jobs, and you gave a perfect example earlier of delegation, right? But that's just kind of just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Let's dive into how can someone buy back their time, because that's a very, very important thing and skill set to actually learn.
Yeah. First, it requires knowing how much time they need to buy back, right? That's number one. Number two is, um, are they qualified to, or I'm sorry, how can they become so valuable that when they do work, because it's not like I do zero work, right? I do work. But when I do actually do the work, how is it that I can create way more value than what a typical 9 to 5 employee might make? So, like when I was working at my 9 to 5 job, maybe I was making $40 an hour. Okay. It's like, okay, that's a decent salary, right? For a government worker. So $40 an hour. Today, I can make $1,000 to $10,000 an hour on a deal, right? Or I might consult with somebody and they might pay me anywhere from $250 to $500 an hour just to talk to me. So it's like, how do you change what your hourly rate is? And it's all about how can you deliver that much value to the point where somebody's willing to pay you 10 to 20 to 50 times what you used to get paid. So that's really what I've done. There's this guy, big syndicator. He's doing like 9 figures of self storage, and he needed help raising more money. And so he came to me. I got introduced to him because he wanted to do like a pitch deck, and he wanted to host these like meetings where he would pitch his deals in front of LPs and all that kind of stuff. And he had a pitch deck and all that kind of stuff. And I read through it at all, and I was just like, dude, this is terrible. Like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What is it like? And I was killing it, right? I was like just chopping it up. And this is a guy who is not used to having people talk to him this way. And I am just ripping into him. And I go, but you're in luck. I can help. I can help you with this because this is what I do. And you're busy enough doing what you're doing. So bring me on and I'll help you with this. I'll clean this right up. I'm valuable in that sense that I know what it should look like. I know what the slide should say. I even know how to change them because I'm well versed in how to use the Microsoft suite, if you will, right? Like I can do all these things because I have the skill set. I know how syndications work. I know what slides should say because I'm good at presenting. And I know actually how to do it because I've done it. So I have all of this value. And then he's like, okay, Hoan, what's your hourly rate? And I just spitballed. And I was like, 250 an hour. And he's like, oh, okay. So he's like, when I make my changes, I'll come back to you. I'm like, awesome. I spitballed and I said 250 an hour. This other guy called me. He was like, hey, or he messaged me and he was like, hey, I just need 30 minutes of your time. I just want to like hash something out. I go, okay, great. He's like, how much would that be? I said, how much do you think that will be? He was like, I don't know, like $500. Or no, he said $300 to $500. I said, okay, $500 sounds great. Here's my, Venmo or whatever, send it. And he sent it to me and we hopped on a Zoom call. And I even gave him a whole hour. I didn't stop at the half hour. I gave him the whole hour for $500, right? It's like, can you get yourself to be valuable enough so that when you do work, you get paid way more than your 9 to 5 so that the equivalent work, or I'm sorry, the equivalent money requires so much less work, so much less time. That's why my time is free because I'm able to charge because I am worth that. Because what I tell you, how I can restructure your business, how I can do help you with this and that, you can turn around and make it worth way more than the $1,000 you paid me, 2,000, 5,000, whatever it is that you paid me. So that's why people come and work with me.
That's incredible, man. I mean, that's I think buying your time back is the most important thing. Like, and being able to utilize that time to actually build those skill sets. I mean, one of the best books that I've read, this right here, "Buy Back Your Time" by Dan Martell. Have you read this book, Hone?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's awesome, man. I mean, a lot of people who actually buy their time back, it's like they spend that time just like watching Netflix all day, things like that. Like I don't necessarily subscribe to that either, even though maybe that's people's dreams. But honestly, it's like, I think life can actually be boring the way I look at it. Like, I would rather spend a little bit of my time back to actually learn new skill sets to level myself up because I want to constantly grow and elevate and learn new things, impact more people, things like that. I'm curious to see, like, what's your 5-year vision look like, Hone?
Oh, dude, I never have a good answer for any of that, right? I never have a good answer for that because who I am is changing like almost every week. So, like, what I think I want today for who Hone will be 5 years from now will change tomorrow because through a conversation with you, through a conversation with any one of the GoPod or Go Bros, all right? Like any conversation could completely change how I think, including the audiobooks that I listen to, the books that I read, the networking events that I go to. Like all of these things influence me so much. Like I am like a leaf in the wind. Like I can blow this way or that way, right? And it's like yeah, who's got the most inspiring story? Who has the most like interesting life? And then it's like, oh, let me go try that, right? So, with that said, how how or why could I ever even predict 5 years from now when I have no idea what next week holds?
And that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, right? We have this freedom to even be so malleable in that sense, so
Right.
to be so free, and that's what it is, that time freedom, that freedom in general.
Yeah.
It's amazing to have, and it's nice to have those 5-year vision. I've got a 5-year vision, but you're right, like it's constantly kind of shifting. I feel like my 5-year vision already kind of reached it in the last couple of years, like, or I'm going to reach that
Right.
in like next year. So it's like, but it's good to have those things set up. A lot of people don't even have that,
I
which is,
guess like from first principles, let's think about it, right? Like, okay, what do people want from a first principle kind of aspect? They want health, wealth, and relationships, right? We talk about that. We call it our triad, right? Health, wealth, relationships. So in 5 years, health, wealth, relationships, it's like, okay, I want that. I want to be healthy, I want to be wealthy, and I want to have a good relationship. So there you go. There's my 5 year vision, also my 10 year, also my 25 year, also my 100 year vision, right? Health, wealth, relationships.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that is a part of our show. Part of our show is called the Triad of Success. We talk about all these different pillars in life, and for entrepreneurs like us, there's usually the top three, and your top three are health, wealth, relationships, right? And
Yes,
so
yes.
let's expand it a little bit. Like, so with all those three, what does that triad look like for you, and how does one affect the other?
Yeah. So when I was like having a 5 year vision, 10 year vision, right? And simple, by the way, right? Simple, the acronym, simple ways to wealth. The S stands for success. And what I say is to picture what success looks like without picturing the how. Don't get stuck on the how because before real estate investing, and simple is actually how I got wealthy, how I became wealthy. Like that framework, that acronym was my playbook. So it wasn't until this year that I actually put it into words and a framework and actually, but I followed it then without knowing it. So success is picture what you want your life to look like without focusing on how you're going to get there. I didn't know real estate would get me here. And if you were like, Hone, in your future you're going to be free and you're going to like your life is going to look like this, that, the other, like through real estate, like it's like, okay, I'm fine with that, right? Cuz I wasn't stuck on the how. I just knew what I wanted, which was that freedom out of my 9 to 5. And so now I have it, right? I have what I wanted. And so in terms of like what I want to just continue to have this freedom where I'm not so stressed out by my day-to-day life. And so 5-year vision, it's like, yeah, I still want that. I still want to have that stress-free life. And so this health wealth relationship and how they play together, you got to create the wealth so that you don't have to trade all of your time for money. And if you don't have to trade all of your time for money, you can have a healthier life and actually have a life because like you're alive and you're doing well and you're not riddled with disease. So you're stress free and you get all this time back and then you can go spend it with your with the people that really matter to you because at the end of the day there's like all this noise, right? Like, oh, I can't believe this person thinks this of me and that person thinks that of me and all that, da, 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 right? If something bad happened to you and you were stuck in the hospital, there's only a handful of people that would actually visit you. And it's like, so of that those handful of people that would actually visit you, are you spending time with them and are you able to spend time with them? My parents would call me sometimes to say like, "Hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me?" Whatever. And I love just saying yes, even though it's me having to go and do something for them. Hey, can you go here and pick this up for me? Hey, can you go do this? Can you do that? Can you pick me up from the airport? Can you drop me off at the airport? All that stuff. And I always say yes. It doesn't matter what time of the day, it doesn't matter anything because I know that like it's the relationships that you have with people that is the only thing that matters. And so how do you have the relationships without the health and without the wealth? You can't. So that's where it's like build the wealth in the right way that allows you to have time and to stay healthy so that you can be there for them. At the end of the day, when you're on your hospital bed, deathbed, whatever, and you're looking around, it's like, did you spend the time with these people? It is not just about like quality, but it's quantity as well, because it's in the quantity that you can see things and create memories. And it's like, you don't know when something cool is going to happen. So without the actual quantity, the large amounts of quantity, you may not have the really good quality. And what you figure out is the small things are the big things. And so, like, imagine being able to see the first time your son walks or says a word or eats something or knows how to play with a toy or is able to do something weird, right? It's like those little things that seem so insignificant are the only things that really bring you lasting joy. And so I'm glad that I get to see all of that, every single bit of it. So there you go. That's how I see the relationship of all three of those things. You have to create the wealth, but you have to create the wealth in the right way that it doesn't eat up all of your time. And then you have to focus on having good health so that you can be there for the people that you love.
Amazing, man. Look, man, we can ramble forever here. We're about 1 hour now, recording for 1 hour. Maybe we can go on and on and on. Hone, you have an incredible life you built for yourself. Man, I'm sure a lot of people listening right now would be so lucky just to have a simple life.
Simple, baby.
So, how can people reach you? Where can people find you, man? Outside of this podcast, obviously.
Outside of this podcast, yeah, so like I said, I'm creating this whole simple thing. So right now the email is learn@simpleways to wealth.com. And then I'm gonna create the YouTube and the Instagram. Maybe by the time you guys are watching this, it's up. So Simple Ways to Wealth on Instagram, and then the YouTube is gonna probably be Simple Ways to Wealth as well. So let me go create that stuff. Again, it's in the works, but learn at Simple Ways to Wealth is probably the easiest way for you guys to reach me as of right now. Yeah, the Instagram, right? DM, Simple Ways to Wealth. Yep. Again, it's all getting built. It is not fully built out yet. I don't even think I have a single post yet, but that's coming. All that's coming, right? I'm building a new company. And again, I spend so much time with my family that it's like, okay, I'll devote a little bit of time here. I'll devote a little bit of time there to go build the company. I'll devote a little bit of time to record Quest for Keys, right? The best podcast on the internet today, right? Yeah. And that's
Well,
my
you
life,
got one
baby.
week, bro. You got one week. This is posting next week. So,
It's true. I gotta do it today. Next week, it'll be there, guys. Email me all you want.
all right. Well, there you go. Wrapping up episode number 2/10.
2/10, folks. 2/10. Yep. Yep. It's crazy, Alvin, that we're on episode 10, actually. It's nuts that we've gotten that far.
Did we
And
did
this
we
was
did we cross that barrier yet? That's awesome, man. I'm so proud of us.
yeah, no, it's good, man. It's good. And look, this is gonna create a lot of value for a lot of our listeners. Hopefully. At least that's the intention, right? It's gonna create a lot of value out of our listeners. And then here is how this all plays out. People get to hear who we are and what we do and realize like, "Oh my gosh, these guys are incredibly valuable," and it would be pennies to hire them compared to the dollars that we'd be making from our business. So then they can call us and we can consult with them, and then they can pay our fee, and then with that fee, we just bought back more time because maybe we make 10 times what we would have made. So then we get to live this simple life by helping other people, delivering value to them, and then they in turn can turn around and create more value and create more money for themselves and their family and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully, guys, you get a lot of value from this. Hopefully, I've been able to. So I'll leave this episode with this. I do a lot of posting on social media right now under my personal name. So if you guys want to follow me, it's Hoan Houdini Tai on Facebook. So I do a lot of posting all about like escaping your 9 to 5 and that it's okay. And I do that because I want you to know that you're not alone. A lot of entrepreneurs who want to leave their job, they feel like they're alone in what they're feeling and that their friends and family think they're crazy. And I'm just there to make them feel like it's okay. It's okay to want to leave your job. So now take that another step further. For those of you who have a business and maybe you're not so excited with working 12 hours a day on your own business, but in fact, you just want to live a pretty simple life and you just want to like hang out with your friends and family and do your hobbies and you're not necessarily trying to go for billionaire. You just want to make enough money to be like a little stress free, right? I'm here to tell you it's okay to build a lifestyle business. It's okay to build a smaller business without any employees, without that stress, without a storefront, without all of the overhead. It's like, you know how great it feels to not have to pay payroll? You know how great it feels to not have to pay rent for a storefront? You know how great it feels to just be able to wake up whenever you want? I'm here to tell you it's okay to build a business that might be a little bit smaller than all of your friends, maybe make a little less money than all of your friends, but you live a life that is more freeing than any one of them currently has. So I'm here to tell you it's okay. It's okay to have that and want that.
There you go. The Magic Man Hone, making your life simple.
Making
All
your
right,
life simple,
folks.
baby.
It's a wrap. We'll see you guys on the next episode
See you
of
later.
Quest for Keys.
Quest for Keys. Peace.